Hello, Leo. Great to have you here. My name is Shona. Today's reading is a general love forecast. As always, take the messages that resonate and release anything that doesn't. Don't forget to like, and subscribe to stay connected with upcoming readings. Let's see what's headed your way, Leo. For you, before we go, we shuffle out the cards and go into this reading, okay? First message that I'm getting here is I feel like some of you might have had a person in your life that you're giving a dose of truth to, okay? So I feel like for whatever reason, out of, just human courtesy, or just, based on the fact that you might have, seen the best in them, I feel like they were giving you a lot of false information. They might have been an instigator. They might have been just somebody that was not very honest in their dealings with you. And I feel like you might have been a little bit like naive, and you fell for it. And I feel like this is the month in which you are giving them a dose of, the truth. You're telling them how you really feel about them, and you're getting upset over falling for whatever they said all these years or all this time. And so my advice here is, if somebody reveals to us how they truly feel about us, if there are lies and deception, it's basically a relationship that's not going to be good for you to engage in, okay? And I feel that, you want people to change of their own volition. You want people to ultimately arrive at the fact that they're doing something wrong, and then they can, induce change from within. And so I feel like because it's not happening, you're going to be very frustrated, and I feel like too much is going to be said, okay? So having said that, I feel like it's really important for us to be always have control over our emotions. And I feel like this might be the month in which somebody might tick you off, and then you run away. You let your emotions get out of hand, or you let it overwhelm you. So just make sure you stay, calm and collected, so that you don't say things you don't mean. And especially, there's always a good way and a wrong way, or there's always a right and a wrong way to handle situations. So I feel like some of you might be erring on the wrong side, saying too much, saying things that you will regret, or saying things that are that you feel, is in the heat of the moment. Okay, so just be careful about that. What I'm also feeling as well is I see a lot of you exercising, so which is a good thing, because it's actually going to help you dissipate a lot of the frustration and some anger, and it's also good overall for your health, so for your emotional health and your physical health. So I feel like that's a good thing. So if you are exercising, I feel like some of you are doing it mainly because of major events that you are anticipating, like 3-4 months down the line. And I'm seeing a lot of weddings, okay? I'm actually seeing a lot of being invited to wedding, being invited to major functions where you're going to be seen and heard, and you want to look a specific way. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like a lot of you are getting into shape. I feel like a lot of hiking. I feel a lot of cycling, doing like crew, even sailing, just getting into shape, which I think is going to be really good for you. And it's going to help you dissipate a lot of that energy. And I also feel like relationships, they say relationships with like an older lover. So, no matter what gender you are, they say relationship with an older partner. I feel like it's starting to bear fruit. And I feel that you are either discussing, whether or not to take things to the next level. And I would advise you, okay, so I feel like you're having discussions with an older lover about what are we doing? Where are things headed? Are we dating exclusively, or are we not? Are we seeing other people? So I feel like these discussions need to be had, especially if the lover is a little bit older than you, okay? And I would say maybe more than 7 years, more than 9 years or so. Significantly older is what they're saying. So I feel like these discussions need to be had, because I feel like you might not be on the same page emotionally, okay? You might feel like everything is dandy and, we're dating each other exclusively. but there will be gentle reminders this month that, things are not as they seem. So it's really important for you to try to, have these discussions up front rather than assume, okay? So let me just go into your reading. I actually do feel there are quite a bit of blockages, and the energy is it's a little bit rough. So let me just talk about this reading. So, first of all, we have here the Emperor in the reverse position. Sometime this month, you're going to be put in a position where you're dealing with this person. This is an authority figure. This can be a boss, employee, or somebody that, wears the pants in the relationship. So it could be whatever gender. But this is a bit of a rough around the edges, harsh, and somebody who is very difficult, okay? So I feel like, negotiations are coming at a standstill when you're dealing with this person. If they are a boss and you're asking for some time off for, whatever reason, if you're planning to go on a cruise, if you're planning to take a vacation, if you're planning to, spend some time with family, traveling, and having to attend some type of significant event, function, I feel that you're going to butt heads with this person because they're not going to make it easy for you. So I feel that is really, really important. If it's a professional, in a professional setting, be careful that you don't say things that might be deemed unprofessional. So be careful about how you navigate this energy, because this is somebody who is on a power trip, okay? They like to have that sense of like they're on top. They like to have the sense of obedience from whoever it is. So what you're going to have to do is, rather than being combative, this is not a situation that you want to find yourself in, because they wield a lot of power. So rather than being combative, I feel that you're going to have to, coax them gently by letting them know this is also in your best interest if you let me do this, etc. This is not you. This is not, stereotypically, this is not something that you do, because with you, Leos, you're very straightforward. You're very direct. And you don't like it. I feel like one of the major pet peeves of yours is if somebody abuses power, okay? So I feel that this is a really difficult person that you've been possibly dealing with for quite some time. And no matter what they say, I feel like you're always going to end up doing your own thing. But just in the spirit of growth and in the spirit of, learning to navigate the energies of other people so that we can create a more harmonious environment, I feel that it is really important for you to negotiate, okay? So rather than being combative, I feel that you're going to have to persuade, you're going to have to use those soft skills in order to get the other person to get on board with you. And that means, being a little bit more compromising, being a little bit sweeter, being a little bit more like, I guess, accommodating to that person, okay? And it's going to be difficult for you, but I feel that in the long run, it's going to work itself out, okay? So I hope that you take, what I say to heart, because confronting this type of person, they are incredibly defensive. And when they feel threatened, when they feel like their power is diminished, and then when they feel threatened by their environment, they're going to lash out. And when they lash out, it's going to be very frightening. Not that you're afraid of conflict, not that you're afraid to stand up for yourself. You always are really good at standing up for yourself. You're always good at standing up for others as well. So I feel like that's not the problem. I just feel like you need to pick your battles, okay? Because you might be getting over your head, and then it might lead to a situation where you might even be separated from that work environment. So just be very careful about where we are throwing our energy and to whom it is directed, because I feel like there's something here about obeying hierarchy. There's something here about, seniority. And I feel that we need to follow rules, okay? So as angry as you are, as upset as you are, and as unfair and unjust as this person might be, it's in your best interest to, fight smart. Okay, so this is a situation that I feel has been troubling you for quite some time. I honestly feel for some of you, this might be like an in-law, okay? Like a battle of wills with some in-laws, and I feel like they're invading your privacy. They're telling you what you should or should not do with your free time. and they're telling you like how to raise children as well. And so I feel like, once again, it's family, right? It's people that we are going to have to live with. So it's people that we're stuck with. So whether or not it's a boss, whether or not it's a family member, like a parent, there's a right way to handle it and there's a wrong way. And I do want the best outcome for you. So I do want you to be very smart and methodical about how you handle this situation. Okay, so you can, like, tell them, okay, I'll do that. I'll consider it. I guess the smart way is not to say yes or no, but say, I'll take that into consideration. Okay, and when you say that to them, yes, they can get mad over it, but honestly, they can't get mad at you because you already gave them an answer, and you've given them an answer that will allow you a lot of leeway. So I feel like, if something, if you feel like you can't make a decision, or if you feel like you're cornered, just say, you know what, I'll consider it, and then, move away, okay? Because I feel like that's probably the smarter way to handle this energy. It's a little bit combative, and I don't want this to, happen where you might say things that you regret, or you might like pick a fight that you cannot win and suffer, disappointment as a result of it. Okay, so just something to keep in mind about. Um, I'm also feeling here, when we have this card, this is your card. This is the card of Leo. When it shows up in the reverse position, it can also indicate a situation where we need to stand up for ourselves. So I feel like, this authority figure might be a different situation altogether. And I feel like with this card, speaking up for ourselves, learning to defend ourselves, learning to speak our truth, and stating our truth, I feel like some of you might be in a situation where you want things to be a specific way, where you want, like to make a decision, but your decisions are kind of like linked up with other people. And you're pretty much a really good team player. And so when what you want and what the team wants, or what your partner wants, is different from you, it's really hard for you to just selfishly say, but I want to do this. I just want to, have this done. And so I feel like there has been a lot of compromise in partnerships, especially in the past. And it's really important for you to tell your partner that, you know what, this is not going to work. So if we continue down this route where I have to make all these sacrifices, it's not right and it's not fair. So I feel like, justice, the sense of like, both parties need to be on board, okay? Both parties need to like pull their weight. So if you look at this card, the horses, okay, the ones pulling the chariot, they both need to move in the same direction. They need to pull in tandem. They need to exert the same amount of force. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere. So I feel like this is a situation where you feel like somebody is not doing you justice. Somebody is expecting you to do all the work. They're slacking off. And, they have all this leisure time, and they have all these other activities that they're engaged in. So they're not pulling their fair share of the weight. And it's not fair to you. And I feel like this is the month in which you need to rectify those imbalances, because I feel like moving forward, it's going to create quite a bit of discord in that interpersonal relationship. And I feel for a lot of you, it might be a relationship, like love relationship, okay, where you really care about this person, but they're not pulling their fair share, or like they're so wrapped up in themselves that they don't see all the things that you're doing. So an example that comes to mind is, let's say you're a woman and you're married to a man, right? Like a heterosexual woman. And so you go to work and then you come home and you're doing all the housework, and your partner also goes to work and he gets home and everything is already prepared. You've got the food laid out and you're taking care of the kids. You're doing like mentorship with the kids to help them with homework, for example. And over time, it's almost like a very gendered like division of labor. And I feel like over time, one day you're sick, right? And you can't do the cooking and you can't take care of the kids. And then your partner comes to expect it. And while you're sitting there, with the flu or when you're sick, the other person is not being understanding. So it's really important to address these things up front, rather than waiting to the last minute, and that's when you get upset. So I feel like it's really important to, imbalances in relationships, all kinds of relationships, need to be addressed up front so that resentment doesn't build up, so that expectations are not solidified, and so that two people can have, a clear discourse about what do I expect from you and what do you expect from me, because I feel like there's a lot of things here that you're letting slide, and in the process of letting them slide, they can build up into, difficulties later on. Okay, so I feel like a lot of important discussions need to be had in relationships. Okay, what I'm also feeling as well is I feel like some of you are living with in-laws, living with parents, and you might so you might be like in a relationship with you might be married, living with in-laws for whatever reason. You might be married, living with your own family, and you want to move away from by yourself. You want to, create the home for yourself. And you don't know how to approach this topic about, moving away from the in-laws with your significant other. And likewise, your significant other feels a little bit cramped in the living environment, and they don't know how to approach the topic about how do we, get our own space. And I feel like it's a practical decision living with family members. I feel like your income, your money is accumulating, because of savings, because everybody's chipping in. You don't have to pay the rent on your own. But at the same time, emotionally, I feel like it's difficult for you and your partner to have alone time. It's difficult for you to be independent. Okay, so I feel like that's the situation here. I'm also feeling for some of you, there might have been, they mentioned something, so I think of this as like exam taking, okay? There might have been a situation where you're either in school or you either took like a very, very big exam, so it could be, for licensing issues, it could be with the state, could be with the government, it could be some type of a proficiency test, and I feel that you're beating yourself up over it because you feel like you didn't do the best to your capabilities, or you feel like you should have spent some more time studying. Lesson learned. So either way, move away from it and, try to do it better next time. So I feel like some of you might need to retake some type of exam, or might need to, talk to your professor, talk to your teacher about your performance and whether or not you can retake it, or whether or not you can do something to make up the grade. So I feel like that's something coming through as well. What I'm also feeling is when I mentioned, having a very solid, stable, like very solid, very hashed out conversations with an older lover, that still applies. And I'm going to go into your love reading in a little bit, but I feel like there needs to be a consensus about where things are headed, okay? Because it feels to me like this: afraid to speak up for yourself, afraid to really, advocate for the things that you want. And as a result, you feel a little bit stuck. You feel like you and the other person are like drifting apart. And so moving forward, really talking about things, okay? Even though it might like bring up things from the past that we're not happy with, or things from the past that we might have just wanted to sweep under the rug. I feel like it's going to happen. It's going to be good for you, so that you both can finally agree. If you agree to move forward in a specific, manner, or agree to disagree and then not talk about things again, that's fine. But at least you can move away and not have to deal with a conflictual situation. Okay. I do feel like housing moves happening for some of you, and I do feel like you're in the preliminary stages. You might have difficulties agreeing with another person if you're living with them, what to do with the house, where to live, geographically where you need to be will start to soften up for you. Okay, so I'm going to go into your relationship reading. Let me see what's going on for you, Leos. I'm feeling this. I feel like health issues with like a father figure. It could be an in-law, like a father-in-law, or like your own father. If you've had difficulties like communicating, if you both have been very estranged from one another, get in touch with your father, see what's going on, okay? I know that when it comes to, family relationships, it's a very delicate issue, but you have a very deep sense of commitment, and you have a deep sense of loyalty, and you're very clan based. So if there are issues coming through, I feel like you want to, address it early on, okay? So get in touch with your father, see how he's doing, okay? I feel like it could be a boss, it could be a father, but I'm getting more of a personal connection, so it might be like a father figure. Health issues, like health diagnoses or something like that. You've got some good cards here. Okay, so let me just talk about once again that message when it comes out with family members. Okay, it's almost like I feel like you and your partner might be living with family because of these practical responsibilities. It might be, family. It might be health related where you have to stay there to take care of family, or it might be financially related where you might not be able to afford to move out on your own, or your family might not be able to afford to take care of themselves, so they rely on you. So I feel like there's heavy energies here with family members affecting the relationship, unbeknownst to them. They might not do it intentionally, but I feel like it's a crowded environment, and I feel that you need your own space with your partner. So that's the first message I'm getting here. The second message for some of you, I do have here a love offer. So this is showing up here. Excuse me. Page of Cups. Page of Cups in the upright. Well, I'm reading this entire thing in the upright position. But this card usually indicates to me an offer of friendship, an offer of dating, an offer for, socializing, getting to know each other, going out on a first date, or going out like this is a new person. So I feel a lot of you have a solid new opportunity that's going to be coming through for you. Okay. And it's linked up as well with the Ace of Pentacles. So I feel like this person might be in your work environment. If that's the case, be a little bit more careful. I feel that because they're in your work environment, that's why you're thinking heavily about whether or not this is going to be a smart move for you to get involved with this person. But at the same time, you might know them for quite some time and you feel like they're solid, they're stable, and things like that. So I feel like there has been, this is the devil here. There has been a lot of attraction. There has been a lot of, physical, like chemistry, passion, and things like that associated with this person that is in your work environment. And you feel like if I get involved with them, I'm going to see them at work. I'm going to see them at home too. Is that too much alone time? And then also, if it's a good career move for you, further down the line, to get involved with a coworker. So I feel like for some of you, you have some temptation coming through in the work environment. You could be single, or you could just be, married in a relationship. I do feel there's an element here of somebody in your work environment making a move on you. The other thing I'm feeling as well is I feel like somebody making a move on you, or you likewise, can be very tempted by somebody, okay? This is a card here about, like having fantasies, okay? Temptation, fantasies, and they're telling you as well. They're telling you as well, for those who are in a relationship, what you have at home is actually very, very solid. So you really need to, not succumb to this temptation. Um, here's the thing. So the Seven of Cups, I actually really like this card, and it's always a good card overall because it basically means choices, options are made available to you. Okay, options are made available to you. And so I feel like there's that element of fantasy, there's that element of wishful thinking, and also the element of pipe dream. So once you have all of these options, you really want to be careful about which option you choose to pick, and whether or not you're going to be able to live with the consequences. So the advice here with the Strength card underneath it, it's basically telling you to hold off on this decision. Don't act rashly. Don't act from stress. Don't act from temptation. Don't act from desire. Because I feel like you might be losing something very, very solid as a result of, succumbing to temptation, okay? So be very careful about that. I do feel that, based on the previous reading, the general reading, you all might be dealing with a lot of stress this month, and so you might not behave in a way that is, conducive for your higher good, okay? So I feel that it's really important that we be careful about that. For those who are single, I feel like there's that element of workplace temptation, and there's also new people that you're meeting. And I also feel like, a lot of the times you want a relationship that is very dynamic. And I feel like you're going to meet somebody that is your match, okay? So I feel like overall it's a very good, stable relationship that's going to be offered here with this Ace of Pentacles. It's something solid, it's something stable, it's something that might not be like, the most exciting thing. However, it's there for the taking, okay? So singles, I feel like you're going to be able to meet somebody quite solid this month. Let me talk a little bit about this energy. So this is kind of like in the past, for whatever reason, you saw somebody that you like, right? And you were holding yourself back. You're just like, I'm not really sure. This is a card about having that passion, having that excitement, having that sense of like, oh, I really want to go for that person. And I feel like you've held yourself back, even though there was a lot of passion, there was a lot of chemistry, okay? The Ace of Wands is usually a spark of something. So it's a little bit more physical, it's a little bit more lustful. And I feel like a lot of you have held yourself back. You might have stalled communication with the other person. You might have just, tried to move away from it. And I feel that this is the month in which you will basically you will have an opportunity to engage with them once again in conversation. Or I feel like they're rushing towards you. Maybe you've taken some time off to stop communicating with them, and they're coming at you full force, okay? So I feel like there might have been somebody that you cut off like them, and I feel like there's still that longing, that chemistry between the two of you. And because you cut them off, I feel like they might be, knocking at your door, trying to get in contact with you for whatever reason, trying to communicate with you. And I feel like this is the month in which you might take them back. So once again, I feel like there's a lot of chemistry in this spread. It's just like so pervasive. We have here the Ace of Wands. This is all about, passion, chemistry. The Devil, which is not always a good thing, but it always indicates passion, chemistry, a love or hate relationship, and a relationship that you can't really wean yourself from because you're so, mesmerized by the other person. So it feels almost like an addiction. It feels almost like it's hard to extract yourself. And at the same time, we have here the card of temptation, the Seven of Cups. So I feel like this is going to be overall a very dynamic month for a lot of you. I feel like some of you might be dealing with a fire sign. So this is another fire sign like yours, like a Leo, a Sagittarius, or an Aries. If this is somebody that is coming through, I feel like the energy is very dynamic, and I feel that it can work. And for those of you who have a partner that is, another fire sign, I feel like both of you are trying to figure out some type of family situation, trying to, move out from the family unit and try to create your own space, and trying to possibly get a house with one another. Okay, so I feel like this is like new projects, new things that you can own, and like big ticket item things. So I feel like either getting a car, getting a home. And I feel that you don't know how to have this conversation with your partner because you feel like financially their families might be dependent on them. And then for others, I feel like heavy flirtation, things like that, attraction in the work environment. It doesn't look that great. Don't succumb to it. You have something very solid and stable with your partner. And overall, energetically, it's always good for us to end old things before we start anew. So it's really important for you to, if you're not in love with your partner, then you need to take care of that relationship first. Either fix it or leave it before you get involved in other things, because once you start siphoning your energy elsewhere, it's not a good space to be, because on a karmic energetic level it always comes back to haunt us, right? So be careful about workplace romances, and especially just avoid people that are not right for you, okay? So Leos, I hope the reading has been helpful, and I hope you can, take that advice to heart. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, my information for my website is in the description box below. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, it is always greatly appreciated. The donation link is also in the description box below. I will be back for the mid-month reading, so I do wish you all the best, okay? Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.